Chapter 6, Collaboration. Collaboration is sometimes overlooked as a piece of IEP planning and implementation. Who does a special education teacher need to collaborate with? When should information be shared, and who should it be shared with? This module segment discusses these points. Now that we have a full system in place for the students on our caseloads, we need to stay abreast of what our students are doing in settings outside of our room and help our support staff be successful in supporting them there. Many individuals work with students in elementary schools that may not have attended the IEP meeting, such as playground duties, library, cafeteria, music, or other special instructors. The special education teacher needs to share pertinent decisions made at the IEP meeting if others legitimately need to know the information to work with the student. Examples might be a copy of the IEP or informing staff of accommodations to be used in the classroom and on tests. Behavioral supports needed for the student in general education settings like recess and/or the cafeteria need to be shared with supervisory staff or with anyone who works directly with the student at school. You might need to remind school staff of the need to respect student privacy and confidentiality with information about the student. Here are some ways Robin supports her students through collaboration with her general education colleagues.
I meet with general education teachers throughout the building at least quarterly to discuss grades and to look at progress of the student overall. I also try to make myself available via email, phone call, or just in person. Lastly, I just try to pop around as much as possible and support kids in the classroom when I can.
I meet with each of the teachers in each grade. I give them their IEP and go over the IEP with them, what goals the students are working on, and what accommodations that they need in the regular classroom. If there's any behavior concerns, I go over the behavior concerns with them. If they have a behavior plan, we look at the behavior plan. But I sit down and talk about each student with every single teacher, that they know that I have an open door policy, and that if they are struggling with anything in the classroom with my students, that they can come to me. And I often have them stopping by at the end of the day, and we talk about our students, we talk about concerns, we talk about their goals, and sometimes their goals need to be tweaked. So we make sure that we are collaborating. This student is my student, but it is also their student. So we make sure that we're working together to meet that student's needs.
Related service providers may do therapies in locations outside of the classroom. It's important to regularly collaborate with these providers so that goals can be implemented throughout the day. For example, motor skills are a natural fit for PE class and recess. Communication goals can be practiced in the lunchroom and in general education classes. Occupational therapy goals might be worked on in the computer lab or when keyboarding. Support staff or paraprofessionals are an indispensable part of meeting the instructional needs of our students. Just as we need appropriate training on the skills needed to perform well, so do our paraprofessionals. When identifying topics for support staff PD, you might use your observations of their strengths and weaknesses, or their own professional goals. Include your paras in discussions about what they need to learn to improve outcomes for students. Support staff each need instruction on all the systems that you've set up to meet the needs of the students on your caseload. For example, goals. Explaining where the student was at baseline for the targeted skill and the expected mastery level in order to meet goal criteria. Health issues. If the student has a health plan or specific health needs that require training by the school nurse, the special education teacher needs to coordinate time for this training to take place. Instructional practices. If an evidence-based practice for academic or maybe social skills requires specific steps to maintain fidelity with implementations of the intervention, then training on the practice needs to occur with paraprofessionals. Behavioral strategies. Behavior plans, positive behavior supports, and preventative strategies need to be taught as well, so all staff are providing consistency to the student. Data collection, in order for you to truly compare apples to apples when reporting progress to parents. How to record data in order to measure progress towards goals needs to be thoroughly explained to your support staff so everyone is on the same page. Expectations. When paras are supporting students in the general education setting, they need to know what the expectations of the instructor are and how to help guide the student toward independence. In this role, they can communicate what is and is not working in the general education setting. While training can and should occur at the beginning of the year, regular ongoing training with your support staff will be needed. Consult with your district and building administrators to come up with a plan to provide this training. Finding the time for professional development for your staff might be tough, but it is needed for the success of students and paras. This is another time when we have to get creative to work with our resources. Teachers might ask their administrators if they can use a weekly PLC time. Would administrators allow paras to stay late once a week and then allow comp time to adjust start or leave times later on? What about using district-wide professional development days? Even if paras don't typically work on that day, communicating the importance of para training to your administration might help them see why it would be a great time for you to provide your staff with training and make it worth allocating additional funds. Based on the areas that you've identified for professional development, consider how you'll address each one. Which one is the biggest priority? It's really important that part of the professional development process is that paras feel supported and safe to try new things. Here are ways Stephanie and Robin have found effective in training their staff.
There are several things that I do in order to make sure my paraprofessional has the skills and the training that she needs to have to meet our students' needs. And one of those things is I make sure that she has access to all the IEPs, that she's read all of them, that she's read their behavior plans, and that she understands the accommodations and what each kid needs. I make sure that she's trained on all of the programs that we use and that she knows if the students are able to do those programs, are making progress in those programs. We talk about our students all the time. If she's working with kids in the classroom, I make sure that I say, hey, how did it go today? And every day we talk about our students. We're talking all the time. She's also part of the progress monitoring process. So she understands it and she knows if they're making progress. It's just important to communicate. You're talking all the time. You're making sure that your para is comfortable and that she knows that she has your support, but you're also making sure that you're guiding her what she's doing because you are the expert.
When planning and preparing for the school year with my paraprofessional, one of the things that's very crucial is that prior to the school year beginning, we have a team meeting, and during that time we go over scheduling, data requirements, and then specifics about the instruction groups that they have. We also adjust schedules throughout the year so that at least once a month we can meet as a team, and during this time we go over new plans, and we often also have coaches from the district level come in and provide professional development on specific instructional techniques.
To summarize the IEP implementation components we've reviewed today, the decision-making process starts with assessment. The thread leads to appropriate IEP goals, and then planning for instruction using appropriate methodologies or evidence-based practices. The IEP is further implemented by grouping and scheduling students appropriately according to their needs. A system for collecting data for progress monitoring is then developed, and the data can be used for formative assessment, which completes the circle. Using this process, if expected student progress towards IEP goals is not being made, a fidelity check on the instructional method may be considered, another instructional practice considered, or the IEP goal amended if all else fails. The points covered in all of the module chapters are how to plan for instruction using the thread, how to learn about appropriate methodologies using What Works Clearinghouse, and considerations when setting up groups and student schedules according to student needs. We discussed classroom spaces conducive to skills needing to be taught, the importance of having a system to collect data for progress monitoring, collaborating with general education teachers and related service providers to ensure the IEP is implemented throughout the school day. Finally, we discussed training support staff to help implement the IEP with your students. We hope you've enjoyed getting to know Robin and Stephanie and the ways they implement the IEP in their settings. Idaho teachers do remarkable work with students every day. For that, we applaud you.